Did you know? Every planet in your birth chart has a different level of power depending upon where it's located in the zodiac. Some planets are kings in their kingdom, others are honored guests. Some are peregrine wanderers with no authority at all, and a few are outright exiles. Understanding this is what allows traditional astrology to say something meaningful and precise about a planet's influence on our life. This technique is known as essential dignities, and it's the subject of the lesson today. Welcome. My name is Geoffrey Ballinger, and I'm a student of traditional astrology. Today, I'm teaming up with Satya Astrology to discuss the concept of essential dignities and debilities. Let's dive in. Here we come to the crux of planetary condition in traditional astrology, essential dignities. In the last video, we talked about how a planet's placement in a day or night chart can affect its strength. In this lesson, we'll be covering a related but distinct topic, how powerful or weak a given planet is depending upon its position in the zodiac. Each planet is bestowed with or denied certain powers or resources, depending upon both the sign and degree that it's occupied. Essential dignities is therefore one of the most important techniques in traditional natal astrology. A key concept within essential dignity is rulership. Every sign has multiple levels of rulership: domicile, exaltation, triplicity, bound, and Decan. These are subdivisions of each sign, and we'll explain every one in detail. Suffice it to say that when a planet occupies a sign that it rules by any of these levels, it is said to be essentially dignified. That makes the planet strong, giving it resources and the power to act naturally. It can pursue its agenda independently and with confidence. If it has no rulership, however, it is said to be peregrine. It is not essentially dignified and instead operates from a position of weakness. Think of it like a stranger in a strange land. You don't know your way around. You don't speak the language. You don't have your social network or resources to lean on that you normally would have at home. There are other planets that are worse off still. These are planets in their sign of detriment or fall, where a planet is said to be essentially debilitated. At its core, essential dignity is about familiarity. When a planet is essentially dignified, it matches the characteristics of the sign it's in, and that alignment gives it a certain kind of power. Let's work through each level of essential dignity. A planet in domicile is located in the sign that it rules. A common metaphor is a king in his own kingdom. William Lilly described it as representing a person who is lord of their own house, estate, and fortune. Basically, someone in a very happy and self-sufficient condition. A planet in domicile can pursue its agenda independently and successfully, and its effects can be enduring. The rulership scheme aligns with the seasons of the year, beginning at the height of summer, with the two luminaries. The sun rules Leo. Remember that the sun is at its height in Leo during the summer of months, when the days are at their longest, and its heat is the greatest. The moon rules the adjacent sign of Cancer, because it was thought to derive its power from the sun. Moving outward from there, you have a relationship of proximity. Mercury, never more than one sign away from the sun, rules the signs of Gemini and Virgo. Venus rules Taurus and Libra. Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius. Finally, in the depths of winter, you have Capricorn and Aquarius, ruled by Saturn. In ancient astrology, Saturn was considered the enemy of the luminaries, and logically occupies the part of the chart furthest from them. Let's go ahead and illustrate this with an example. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So, if we were to imagine a Gemini kingdom, it would have distinct mercurial characteristics. Imagine a kingdom where communication, information, and investigation are at the center. You have cutting-edge, high-speed connectivity, a bustling press, a culture of research and inquiry, where there's a constant flow of travel, news, and gossip. Mercury here would be an excellent ruler because he can command and operate these resources efficiently. As we go through each level of rulership, we'll introduce a scoring system to assess the relative strength of planets in a birth chart. For now, let's assign a score of +5 to a planet in its domicile. Each planet, other than the luminaries, rules 2 signs. However, it tends to prefer one of these signs. Recall from the lesson on sect that diurnal planets prefer to inhabit diurnal signs, and nocturnal planets prefer to inhabit nocturnal signs. Since each planet has one diurnal and one nocturnal domicile, it will naturally favor the one that aligns with its own sect. So, even though Saturn is at home in both Capricorn and Aquarius, as a diurnal planet, it prefers the diurnal sign of Aquarius. These are the planetary joys. Similarly, you'll see Jupiter prefers the diurnal sign of Sagittarius. Mars prefers the nocturnal sign of Scorpio. Venus prefers the nocturnal sign of Taurus. And Mercury prefers the nocturnal sign of Virgo. If domicile means a planet in its own sign, then detriment means a planet in the sign directly opposite its domicile. To use the same royal metaphor, if I'm the sun, I'm the ruler of the kingdom of Leo. I'm comfortable in Leo. I have my court, my tools of kingship, and the full attention and adoration of my subjects. But if I were somehow exiled to the Saturnian kingdom of Aquarius, things would be very different. Not only am I out of place, but the expectations here are the complete opposite of everything that I'm accustomed to. Rather than shining and displaying my full glory, I'm expected to tone it down a little bit, be more dispassionate, and subordinate my needs to those of the collective. A planet in detriment is therefore in a position of genuine weakness. It's far from home, has no authority or support, and the resources that are available to it may be ill-suited to its nature. Mars in Libra, for example, might reach for a weapon only to find soft fabrics and works of art. That means that a planet in detriment may have to work harder to achieve less. Its expression tends to be constrained and inconsistent. To summarize the scheme for detriment, we see that the diurnal luminary is in detriment in Aquarius. Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini and Virgo. Saturn is in detriment in Cancer and Leo. Mars is in detriment in Sagittarius and Pisces. The Moon is in detriment in Capricorn. Venus is in detriment in Scorpio and Aries. And Mars is in detriment in Libra and Taurus. Of course, we will cover some mitigating factors in a later lesson. These are conditions that help a planet in detriment function better, despite its debilitation. For now, let's assign a score of -5 to a planet in detriment. The next level of essential dignity is exaltation. While a planet in domicile is at home in its kingdom, a planet in exaltation is an honored guest. This is a place in the zodiac where the characteristics of the sign promote the maximum effectiveness of the planet, where its best qualities are elevated and celebrated. We can provide a useful analogy. Usain Bolt is from Jamaica, so he's probably at ease in Kingston. But he broke the world record at Beijing at the 2008 Olympics. He reached his maximum potential not at home, but as an honored guest on foreign soil. Therefore, an exalted planet is very powerful. It is given the seat of honor at the table and showered with the highest recognition. It exercises considerable influence. However, it's neither as consistent nor as enduring as a planet in domicile. It can sometimes promise more than it can deliver, and its influence may be unsteady. After all, the honored guest eventually goes home. The system of exaltations has both a symbolic logic and specific peak degrees. The Sun is exalted at 19 degrees of Aries. As the Sun enters Aries, the days begin to grow longer. This is the start of spring and the beginning of the diurnal luminary's ascent toward the peak. The moon is exalted at 3 degrees of Taurus. The consistency and stability of the nocturnal Earth sign provides some grounding for what is otherwise an inconsistent, ever-changing planetary body. The greater malefic, Saturn, is exalted at 21 degrees of Libra. As the sun enters Libra, the nights begin to grow longer. This is the beginning of autumn and the start of the sun's decline. Jupiter is exalted at 15 degrees of Cancer. The sign's association with nurturing and life aligns well with Jupiter's warm, moist, and sanguine characteristics. Mars is exalted at 27 degrees of Capricorn. Capricorn is associated with efficiency and ambition in the depths of winter. Martial effectiveness is honed here, so every effort is made with the minimum of wasted resources. Mercury, meanwhile, is exalted at 15 degrees of Virgo. This is a sign associated with detail, analysis, and organization, very clear mercurial qualities. Venus is exalted at 27 degrees of Pisces, a pleasure-oriented and artistically sensitive sign. The lunar nodes also have exaltations. The north node is exalted in Gemini, and the south node is exalted in Sagittarius, but these are less important for our purposes here. In our scoring system, let's assign a score of +4 to a planet in its exaltation. Opposite each sign of exaltation is a planet's fall, also known as its exile. This is the second level of essential debility. Like a planet in detriment, a planet in fall is far from home, with no power, no resources, and no support. But there's an added dimension of disgrace. It acts as though it has been banished and stripped of all status and recognition. No matter how hard it tries, it may find itself in unfortunate circumstances and experience real pain and difficulty. In some cases, a planet in its fall can act in a cruel, wicked, or morally compromised manner. Think of it like a noble in disgrace. Let's look at the scheme for fall. The Sun is in its fall in Libra. Jupiter is in its fall in Capricorn. Saturn is in its fall in Aries. Mercury is in its fall in Pisces. The Moon is in its fall in Scorpio. And Venus is in its fall in Virgo. Mars is in its fall in Cancer. Here, let's assign a score of -4 to a planet in fall. Now we come to the finer levels of rulership. These may be less familiar to you, even if you have some traditional astrology experience. First, we'll cover triplicities. We've talked about triplicities before. Remember that the signs are grouped by element into 4 teams. You have the fire triplicity of Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, the earth triplicity of Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, the air triplicity of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and the water triplicity of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Each triplicity has 3 rulers. You have the diurnal lord, the nocturnal lord, and the cooperating or participating lord. In a day chart, the triplicity is ruled by its diurnal lord. In a night chart, by its nocturnal lord. The cooperating lord will have some rulership in both. The triplicity scheme for rulership is as follows. For the fire triplicity, the diurnal lord is the sun, the nocturnal lord is Jupiter, and the cooperating lord is Saturn. For the earth triplicity, the diurnal lord is Venus, the nocturnal lord is the moon, and the cooperating lord is Mars. For the air triplicity, the diurnal lord is Saturn, the nocturnal lord is Mercury, and the cooperating lord is Jupiter. And finally, for the water triplicity, the diurnal lord is Venus, the nocturnal lord is Mars, and the cooperating lord is the moon. What does triplicity rulership mean? A planet in its triplicity is like someone who belongs to a community. Could be a club member who has been around for years. They hold a respected position and share values with those around them. They have support, they are known and trusted, and that makes them more comfortable and more effective. For our scoring system, a planet in its own triplicity, as the sect lord, receives a score of +3. If it's in its own triplicity, but is not the sect lord, meaning it's the cooperating ruler, or the sect doesn't align with that of the chart, it receives a score of +2. Let's provide some examples to clarify this. Jupiter in Aries in a night chart receives +3, because Jupiter is the nocturnal lord of the fire triplicity. Jupiter in Aries in a day chart, however, will receive +2, since it's not the day ruler of fire. Jupiter in Aquarius will receive +2 regardless of sect, because it is a cooperating ruler of the air triplicity, present in both instances, but not as powerful as if it were the sect-aligned lord. As we move down the levels of essential dignity, the focus becomes increasingly fine-grained. Now we come to bound, which is also called term. Each sign is divided into 5 unequal segments called bounds, and each bound is ruled by one of the 5 non-luminary planets. There are different systems for assigning these, but here at Satya we use what is called the Egyptian system. A planet in its own bound is like the governor of a city. It may not have country-wide power, but within its territory it exercises a kind of local freedom and authority. It can set rules and carry out the administrative tasks it needs to fulfill its duties within its domain. We can understand this by looking at the sign of Aries. Here, Jupiter rules the first bound, which spans from 0 degrees to 6. Venus rules the bound from 6 degrees to 12. Mercury rules from 12 to 20. Mars rules from 20 to 25. And Saturn rules the last bound from 25 to 30 degrees. So, if Jupiter is at 3 degrees of Aries, it would be in its own bound. Bound rulership is assigned varying levels of importance by different traditional astrologers, but it's generally significant in many traditional techniques. Even though William Lilly assigns it a score of +2, here at Satya we'll assign a score of +3 to a planet in its own bound. The last level of essential dignity is the Decan, also called the face. The Decans divide each sign into 3 10-degree segments, and the rulership system here has its roots in ancient Egyptian star lore. There are 2 main systems for the Decans, the Chaldean Decans and the Hindu Decans. In the Chaldean system, rulers are assigned based on the Chaldean order of planetary speed, from fastest to slowest. For example, in Aries, the first Decan is ruled by Mars, the sign ruler, then moves backwards through the Chaldean order, so that the second Decan is ruled by the Sun, and the third by Venus. This continues sign by sign, so the first Decan of Taurus is Mercury, the second the Moon, the third Saturn, and so on. However, the system we use at Satya Astrology is the Hindu Decans. This system is attributed to the 6th century AD Indian astrologer Varaha Mihira. In this system, the decans of each sign follow the order of the signs within the same triplicity. The first decan of Aries is Aries itself, ruled by Mars. The second decan of Aries is Leo, ruled by the Sun. The third decan of Aries is Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. This system is also important for temperament calculations, and Dr. H, a prominent traditional astrologer today, uses the triplicity decans for physiognomy as well. For our scoring system, a planet in its own decan receives a score of +1. Think of it as a team leader for a small group. It enjoys some modest benefits and provides a degree of local administrative support, especially to higher level rulers operating in the same space. Let's say a planet inhabits a space in the zodiac where it's neither dignified or debilitated. Then, it is said to be in Peregrine. It's located in a degree and sign with no essential dignity of any kind. It's not actively harmed, but it has no power either. The Sun in Cancer is a good example. It has no dignity here. It hasn't fallen from grace, but it's still a foreigner. It doesn't speak the language of Cancer, it has no friends, and cannot effectively pursue its significations. Saturn at 10 degrees of Taurus would be another example of a peregrine planet. However, Saturn at 24 degrees of Taurus would not be peregrine, since it would be in its own bound and Decan, giving it some measure of dignity. A peregrine planet receives a score of 0. Before we move on, let's take a look at 2 analogies that can help bring this whole system to life. The first analogy is that of the island countries. Now let's imagine a world composed of 12 island nations. Each is separate and distinct, surrounded by the sea, with its own terrain, climate, resources, and ruler. There are 7 rulers in total, the 7 classical planets. At the level of domicile, each planet is the ruler of its own island, or in some cases, 2 islands. The terrain, climate, and resources of the kingdom perfectly match the ruler's nature, allowing them to rule effectively and pursue their ambitions to the fullest. The moon rules the island of Cancer. Venus rules the islands of Libra and Taurus. At the level of exaltation, a planet is a visiting dignitary. When the planetary kings go traveling, they visit their closest allies first. Jupiter visits the island of Cancer, and the kingdom throws a feast in his honor. There's festivals and gifts. Jupiter is showered with Cancerian gifts, memory, nostalgia, a deep attachment to the material world, and a drive to conserve wealth for future generations. It's a glorious visit, but at the end of the day, Jupiter goes home. Then, at the level of triplicity, you have key alliances between islands, 4 groupings, like 4 trading blocks. A planet in a triplicity is like a king who arrives with the backing of its alliance partners. It has a responsibility to set shared policy for the group and enjoys a degree of authority and acceptance that goes beyond what a complete outsider would receive. Going further, we see that each island nation is divided into 5 states or provinces, each governed by a different planet. A planet in its bound is thus the governor of one of these provinces. Even with a king running the country, the governor retains real local power. He has the freedom to set rules and run affairs within his territory. Mars, for example, might be the governor of the first 7 degrees of Cancer, giving it local authority, even in a nation ruled by the moon. The second analogy we can look at is that of the school. This is a somewhat more contemporary analogy. Let's imagine you have 12 schools, each specializing in different subjects. The Aries school is focused on martial pursuits, competition, the art of winning. The Aquarius school concentrates on science and the betterment of humanity. The Taurus school teaches agriculture, music, and the arts. In this analogy, a planet in domicile is the principal of the school. It sets the administrative structure, determines what students learn and how, and directs all of the school's resources. Mercury, as the principal of the Gemini school, will invest in high-speed internet, communication technology, research tools, and media services. Everything needed to help its students master the arts of information, writing, and inquiry. A planet in exaltation is like a distinguished member of the school board. When they visit, they are shown the utmost respect, offered the best resources, and given a real opportunity to influence school policy. But they don't stay long, and when they leave, the school continues as usual. Saturn, on the Libra school board, for example, is given a tour of the fine arts studios, witnesses the diplomacy and integrity of the students, and enjoys the school's finest hospitality. But at the end of the day, Saturn goes home, and the Libran school continues to run as it always did. Next, a planet in triplicity is a group leader visiting from an allied school. It has the backing of its communities and some administrative responsibilities, and any decision it makes on the behalf of the group apply across all schools in the triplicity. Maybe like a school district. A planet in its bound, however, is the classroom teacher. It uses the school's resources to teach its students, but it has the freedom to set the rules within its own classroom, according to its own approach. Jupiter teaches the first classroom of the Aries school, and so it will approach warfare philosophically, equipping students with strategic thinking, generosity and victory, and a broad view of the battlefield. Venus, teaching the second classroom of the same school, will take a different approach, cultivating boldness in social interaction, a love of competition, and even the idea that a little rivalry can strengthen relationships. The Decan adds one final layer. There are occasionally visiting instructors who come in to train groups of students based on their own expertise. Mars teaches the first 100 students at the Aries school. They wear red uniforms and receive additional training in combat and aggression. The Sun teaches the second 100. They receive yellow uniforms and get training in glory, leadership, and patriotism. Jupiter teaches the third 100, who wear orange and are trained to be magnanimous in victory, philosophical, and generous in spirit. Importantly, a single planet can hold multiple roles simultaneously. In the Aries school, Mars can be both the principal, a classroom teacher, and a visiting instructor all at once. The Sun serves on the school board and also provides vocational training to one group of students. Each planet's full influence at any given degree reflects this combination of roles. Now let's dive into the example charts. We'll bring essential dignities and debilities to life by looking at the charts of some of our favorite historical figures. You'll recognize some names that we've already covered in this course. For an example of Domicile at its most powerful, look no further than Napoleon Bonaparte, who had the Sun in Leo in the 10th house of career, status, and reputation. The Sun in Leo is the king in his kingdom at his kingliest. It has full access to all the resources that support ambition, glory, leadership, and fame. Napoleon's rise to power was extraordinary. He ascended from relatively modest origins in Corsica to become Emperor of France in the early 19th century. He also ruled over much of Europe, and his actions shaped global affairs. His commanding personality and force of will, of course, played a central role in his success, and his Sun in Leo exemplifies the best of what this placement can offer: ambition, generosity, grandeur, loyalty, and radiance. Next, we can look at the chart of Indian independence leader Bal Gangadhar Tilak. He had Mars in Libra in the 3rd house. Recall that the 3rd house governs siblings, friends, reading, writing, the press, media, neighborhoods, and short-distance travel. Mars is in Detriment in Libra. As a planet of war and direct action, it finds itself forced to fight for peace in the sign of diplomacy. Its aggressive impulses have to be restrained, and it cannot fully be itself. It lacks the tools and environment that it needs to operate effectively. Libra introduces indecision and hesitation into Mars's otherwise decisive nature. It's also worth noting that Tilak's chart is a day chart, so Mars is the most negative planet in terms of sect considerations. It's the out-of-sect malefic. This combination means that the symbolism of a frustrated, combative Mars ran throughout the key events of Tilak's life. At the beginning of his career, Tilak engaged in bitter ideological debates with his close friend and colleague, a man by the name of Agarkar. Both of them ran competing newspapers and used them to attack each other's views. Agarkar advocated for social reform and was willing to work with the British to achieve it. Tilak opposed any collaboration that would weaken the independence movement. The Mars and Libra dynamic is visible here. You have a reluctant combatant who wants to fight but is forced to operate through the languages of debate, diplomacy, and the press, rather than through direct confrontation. This tension reappears years later, after the 1905 partition of Bengal. Tilak led the extremist faction of the Indian National Congress in boycotting British goods and organizing strikes. When 2 young nationalists threw a bomb at the British magistrate's carriage, they missed the target and killed 2 English women instead. The government searched Tilak's premises and found enough incriminating evidence to imprison him for sedition, even though he had condemned the attack in his own newspaper. Mars and Libra here is the bombing, the bomb thrown into the wrong carriage, the violence that went astray, the arrest that follows indirect association with the actual crime. Even in the house of press and local communication, Mars is in detriment and cannot fight clean. For a good example of exaltation, consider Petrarch's Saturn in Libra and the third house. Saturn is exalted in Libra, giving it dignity, esteem, and an elevated capacity to act. Petrarch was vital to reviving classical knowledge in the 14th century. During his travels in 1345, he discovered the letters of Cicero. His work translating these is often associated with the beginning of the humanism movement during the Renaissance. Saturn in Libra, in the third house, represents the ancient literature that helped usher in the rebirth of classical thought and scholarship. Saturn in the third house could also describe Petrarch's brother, Gerardo. Gerardo joined a strict religious order at the age of 36. He made a pilgrimage on foot through France and became a monk. Petrarch later visited him, and the austere life, the silence, the candles, the prayers, made a deep impression on the man. Inspired by this experience, Petrarch later wrote a philosophical treatise titled On the Solitary Life that pays homage to the life he saw while visiting Gerardo. Finally, the exaltation of Saturn in Libra is visible in Petrarch's Secretum, or My Secret Book. In it, he examines his own life in the presence of St. Augustine and Lady Truth as judges. It's a work of rigorous self-examination, a weighing of competing influences, an acknowledgement of his attachment to worldly fame and romantic love, as well as a philosophical argument for a more austere and devoted life. The exalted Saturn in Libra, a planet of discipline and renunciation, honored and elevated in the sign of balance and justice, is a fitting symbol for this kind of moral reckoning. Note also that Saturn is the insect malefic in Petrarch's chart. The exaltation here helps manage and direct its energy, making it considerably more constructive than it might otherwise be. Petrarch's chart also offers a vivid example of a planet in its fall. He has Mars in Cancer in the 12th house. Some traditional astrologers associate the 12th house with the circumstances surrounding the birth of the native, as it immediately precedes the first house in the wheel of the horoscope. Petrarch was born in Arezzo, a city his family had been forced to move to after being exiled from Florence. A month before his birth, in fact, his father was part of a peace commission to Florence. Negotiations failed, and the family had to flee. Petrarch himself later wrote, "Thus, even before birth, I began to know danger, and I crossed the threshold of life under the shadow of death." Mars is in its fall in Cancer, in the house of confinement and hidden enemies. Here, exile, displacement, and danger surround the very beginning of life. For an example of triplicity rulership, let's return to the chart of Tilak. Tilak has Jupiter in Aries in the 9th house of religion, spirituality, and philosophy. Jupiter is the triplicity ruler of the fire triplicity, giving it essential dignity. The 9th house is cadent but favorable as it trines the ascendant, and Jupiter is the most positive planet in the chart by sect considerations, since Tilak's chart is a day chart. So, here we have a planet supported by a favorable house placement, strong sect status, and essential dignity by triplicity. It's genuinely well placed. During his imprisonment, Tilak studied deeply and produced his translation and commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. He focused on karma yoga, the path of unselfish action, the idea that a person must fulfill their duty regardless of the personal cost. One of Tilak's most often quoted lines captures the spirit of Jupiter in Aries in the 9th house precisely. A philosopher must act and show how to act. For an example of a planet in bound, look no further than the chart of Copernicus. Copernicus has Mars in Aquarius in the 6th house. At this specific degree, it falls in its own bound. This gives us a useful example of what a planet ruling its own bound can accomplish within the limited but real sphere of local authority. Mars in the 6th house is also in its planetary joy, which adds a further layer of comfort to its position. Now, we might remember Copernicus for his scientific contributions, but he also served as a military administrator. In 1516, he was appointed administrator of the Varmia region and was responsible for supervising lands and collecting taxes. This is a fairly apt symbol of a planet exercising its local bound authority. He was re-elected in 1520, and when the Teutonic Knights laid siege to the town of Allenstein, Copernicus led the defense. With only around 100 men, he reinforced the castle fortifications, stockpiled provisions, and wrote to the Polish king and neighboring cities for reinforcements. When the Teutonic Knights, an army of 1,400, broke through the frozen moat and demanded surrender, Copernicus refused. His forces held the breach until Polish cavalry, infantry, artillery, and supplies arrived in February. Here we see Mars in Aquarius in its own bound, operating as a military commander, organizing a disciplined and resourceful defense. This is the governor of the province exercising real local authority, at least within the limits of his territory. The insect status of Mars in Copernicus's nocturnal chart is a further mitigation, making sure that Mars, while it's still a malefic, is working in a relatively constructive and organized way. Just as we've done with the other factors in this course, we need a scoring system to evaluate the relative strength of a planet's essential condition. Let's review what we've learned to see the system used at Satya Astrology. A planet in Domicile receives a score of +5, Exaltation a score of +4, Triplicity and Sect Lord +3, Bound +3, Triplicity for a non-sect lord or cooperating ruler +2, Decan +1, Peregrine 0, Fall -4, and Detriment -5. Remember, a single planet can hold multiple dignities or debilities at the same time, so these scores are combined to produce a total. The total is then converted into a letter grade. If a planet receives a score of +7 or above, we can give it a grade of A++. +5 or +6 is A+, +4 A, +3 B++, +2 B+, +1 B. 0 or -1 is C+, -2 or -3 is C, and a -4 or below is D. One essential resource for working within this system is the Essential Dignities table, which you can find on the Satya Astrology website. Let's look at the first row, Aries, to see how it works. So if you look at the table, Mars rules Aries by domicile. The Sun rules by exaltation. The Triplicity rulers are the Sun by day, Jupiter by night, and Saturn as a cooperating ruler. With the Egyptian bound system, Jupiter rules the degrees 0 to 6, Venus rules 6 to 12, Mercury rules 12 to 20, Mars rules 20 to 25, and Saturn rules 25 to 30. For the Decans, using the Hindu system, Mars rules the first decan, the Sun rules the second, and Jupiter rules the final decan. Venus is in her detriment in Aries, and Saturn is in his fall. Let's work through what we've learned with the chart of Charles Dickens. We'll go planet by planet, determine the essential dignity or debility of each, and arrive at a grade. First, let's start with the diurnal luminary. The Sun is located at 17 degrees 57 minutes of Aquarius. It is in detriment in Aquarius, giving it a score of -5 and a grade of D. The Moon is at 12 degrees 36 minutes of Sagittarius. It has no essential dignity here, and is Peregrine, giving it a score of 0 and a grade of C+. Mercury is at 22 degrees 10 minutes of Capricorn. It is in its own decan there, giving it a +1 score. With this +1 score, we get a grade of B. Venus is located at 16 degrees 15 minutes of Pisces. She is in her exaltation and her triplicity as a diurnal lord of the water triplicity. However, Because Dickens' chart is nocturnal, she receives a score of +2 rather than +3. Combined with the Exaltation score of +4, you get a total of +6 and a grade of A+. Mars is at 7 degrees 32 minutes of Aries. It's in its own domicile and Decan, giving it a +1 and a +1 for a total of +6 and a grade A+. Jupiter is at 26 degrees 29 minutes of Gemini. It's in Detriment there, but it is also the cooperating ruler of the air triplicity. That -5 and +2 score give it a cumulative score of -3 and a grade of C. Saturn is at 4 degrees 22 minutes of Capricorn. It's in its own domicile and Decan, and receives a total score of +6 and a grade of A. To summarize, in Dickens' chart, Saturn, Mars, and Venus all receive excellent grades of A+. Mercury earns a B for its Decan rulership. The moon is Peregrine and gets a C+. Jupiter is hampered by its detriment and lands at a C. The Sun is the weakest planet in the chart, with a D grade from its detriment in Aquarius. That covers the full system of essential dignities, from the king in his kingdom all the way down to the exiled wanderer. This is one of the most important tools in traditional astrology, and it's something you can start to apply to charts right away. Before we move on, I want you to try this. Pull up your own birth chart and focus on a planet. What sign is it in? Does it have any essential dignities? Or is it Peregrine? Or is it debilitated? Leave your answer in the comments. I'd love to see what you find and discuss it more with you. In our next lesson, we'll continue building our toolkit as we move on to the topic of solar phase, another important planetary condition. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.